Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. If you are new, if you're not new, welcome back to my channel. My name is Marina and welcome to another book video. Okay, so this is gonna be my May and June wrap up. We're like 7 days into July. It's a little late, but better late than never, I guess. I don't know. If you're new here, I do bi-monthly wrap-ups instead of monthly wrap-ups because this year I've been taking my time with reading. So I've been reading at a slower pace, fewer books, and I feel like doing monthly wrap-ups, I'd only be talking about like 3 or 4 books each month, and that's no fun. So yeah, I read 9 books in total in the past 2 months. I was studying abroad in England for the first half of this year, and I traveled back home during May. So May was just a lot of focusing on packing and traveling across the globe. So I didn't really focus on reading too much. Most of the reading that's gonna be talked about in this video was done in June, though in June I was also traveling. I recently went to Africa. Yeah, I got as much reading done as I could, and so, to be honest, I'm proud of what I did read because I realized this about myself. I can't read on planes. It's kind of impossible for me. I like to read laying down or like in a comfortable position where I can move, and you know, in the economy section of an airplane, that's kind of impossible to do. So on my like 13-hour 20-hour flights, I was not able to read a single book unless it was on my phone, but even that was kind of just like not it. I had no time throughout the past few months, but what I did read I enjoyed, to be honest. I don't think there's a bad book in here. Well, let's not get ahead of myself. So with that being said, let's get started. So the first book I'm going to talk about is one that I mentioned briefly in my mid-year book freakout tag, which you can check after you watch this video. An American Marriage by Tayari Jones. I read this in May, and it's the only book I read in May. If you don't know what this book is about, it's about a newlywed couple who are just trying to live their happy lives until one of them gets wrongfully prosecuted and sent to jail for 12 years. And it's just about them trying to move forward in their relationship while he's in jail. But along the way, the girl starts getting feelings for her best friend that she's known since she was a kid. Yeah, it's very messy, very good. Black romance. I enjoyed myself, but I'm gonna be honest, the romance wasn't like the biggest factor of the book. There's a lot of nuance in this book, which I appreciated because I really did think I was just walking into like a regular romance. I knew it was gonna be a little bit dark because, you know, black person gets wrongfully prosecuted, sent to jail. Like, I knew what I was getting into. I knew it wasn't going to be like the happiest romance of all time, but I didn't really know what I was walking into in terms of like an actual storyline for the characters and what each of them would have to go through. It was really sad to me. Once I got back home, I like sped through this in a few days. Like, I couldn't put it down once I actually sat down and had time to read it. It was so good. It wasn't the typical love triangle, which I really liked. Like, each character was very complex. Reading from each character's perspective made the relationship that they had with one another make more sense as to why it's not just like a simple, oh, you love him more than you love me, or just pick, you have to choose. It's more complicated than that. I will say I gave it a 3.5 stars because the ending was kind of meh for me. I didn't really enjoy reading that kind of ending. But everything else in the book I liked. It really would have been like a 4-star read if that ending didn't exist. Or like if she changed a little bit. Like, even if it did end the same way, the way that it went about getting to that ending, I just wasn't really the biggest fan of. Like, I was just like, ugh. I mentioned in my mid-year book freakout tag that the writing in this book is beautiful, and I still stand by that statement. I haven't read anything else by this author, but she's definitely one of the authors that I wouldn't mind reading from again. I had a good time with this. An American Marriage by Tayari Jones. Go read it. Oh wait, that wasn't the only book I read in May. I read one other book in May. I read it on the last day of May, and I finished it the last day of May. Percy Jackson and the Olympians, The Lightning Thief, the first book. I wanted to get back into reading, and the only way I've been able to do that is by rereading books that I really love, and Percy Jackson is one of those books. I read it in like one sitting, and I was having the time of my life. I love these characters, I love this book series, and I'm hoping by getting through this series I can finally start the Heroes of Olympus series. I've been saying for years that I'm gonna actually read that series, and I have yet to do that, so I'm hoping if I get through the Percy Jackson books this year I can finally start the Heroes of Olympus series because I need to do that. Like it's actually ridiculous. Like I need to read that because it's not that it's not interesting to me. Like I want to get back into the Percy Jackson universe and read about new characters. I'm just so attached to these characters from this series that I'm kind of just like, I don't know. If you don't know what Percy Jackson is, I don't know what to tell you. No, I'm kidding. But it's about this boy, Percy Jackson. I think he's 12 years old in this book. He finds out that he is the son of Poseidon, you know, the Greek god, the myth, the legend. And he gets wrapped up into a world of monsters, Greek gods, just all of this stuff. He gets sent to a camp called Camp Half-Blood, where he gets to basically go to a summer camp with all of these other demigod children. Gets sent on a bunch of quests throughout the series, and it's just a good, fun time. Like I said, I really do enjoy this world. I love these characters. I think I gave this first book a 4. I will say that I enjoyed rereading this a lot more than I enjoyed reading it the first time a few years ago. I remember thinking that this first book was just so slow and kind of boring when I first read it, and I haven't picked it back up since. I haven't picked up the series at all in the past like 2 or 3 years. Rereading it and knowing what I'm getting into, I was like hooked because I got to see again like the progression of the characters and where they all started and how these friendships formed. Like seeing Percabeth when they're like babies and their interactions with each other, oh, I was gagged. It is getting made into a series that's supposed to be out I think next year, so I was just picturing the actors from the show in these roles, and I was really just having the time of my life reading this. It was just so much fun. If you want to see my review of the first time of me reading Percy Jackson, it's on my other channel, but the playlist is going to be on this channel of all the other book videos from my previous channel, so go check that out. And then the second book as well, the sequel to Percy Jackson, The Sea of Monsters. I still believe that this is the worst book in the series, not because it's bad, it's just because the other books are too good that it can't compete where it doesn't compare. I had a lot more fun reading this one too, but again, it's because I knew what was coming. Like this is literally like the calm before the storm of the series. Like you don't think much is happening, and then shit hits the fan in the books to come. So you kind of just have to get through this book to get to the good stuff, you know? It was fun. It was cute. Again, the Percabeth moments in this, eating it up. I think I enjoyed Tyson more as a character in this book. When he was first introduced, I was like, I know if you haven't read Percy Jackson, you're probably just like, what am I even talking about? When you reread books, I realized that you might have a better time. Because not gonna lie, I'm not really a rereader, but the past few months I have been. I haven't read the other sequels yet, but I definitely am going to. I just need to take a break because I know the emotional turmoil I'm gonna get for the next 3 books. Ooh, I needed to like take a break. The next book that I reread, Red, White, and Royal Blue. If you guys don't know what Red, White, and Royal Blue is about, it is about this queer love story between the son of the President of the United States and the Prince of England. They really can't stand each other at the start of the book, and then they bump heads. It becomes like an international scandal, and they have to kind of put on a PR stunt, like hang out with each other, make sure that the press and the paparazzi see them, to make sure that, you know, people don't think a war is about to happen just because the son of the president and the Prince of England don't like each other. While they continue to hang out, they slowly start to develop feelings for each other, and it's one of my favorite romances. I love this book so much. I reread it again because of how much I love it and I needed to get back into reading, but also because the movie comes out in I think a month. I think the trailer dropped either yesterday or today. Looks interesting. I'll say that, and I'll keep my mouth shut. As far as the book goes, I had so much fun rereading this. I knew I would. I got through it very, very fast. After like 3 years, I think it's been since I read this, it still holds up. Like it's still cute, funny as heck. The banter in this book, I feel like it's kind of underrated. Like the banter is so funny. Like when I read a rom-com book, I really want the comedy part to hit. Sometimes the books don't do that. Casey McQuiston, they knew how to make me burst into laughter and then cry on the next page. Like very sick and twisted how they managed to do that, but it did that. In this book, you see Alex and Henry, the 2 main characters, how they're willing to risk it all just to be with one another, and the risks, like you feel the risk, like you know what's at stake, and you feel the tensions rising as the book progresses, and it just feels very real, even though this book is a whole lot of fun and very unrealistic, but it doesn't take away from the fact that like when you read about these characters, you feel their emotions and why they're so like hesitant to do what they're doing, but yet they can't stop because of how much they love each other. And it's really, really good. I gave it a 4.5. I think I gave it a 5-star a few years ago, but I don't know, with rereads it just it just depends. And yeah, that's Red, White, and Royal Blue by Casey McQuiston. I suggest you read it before the movie comes out, because from what I've heard, they're changing like a fair amount in the movie that I'm kind of questioning. But again, I'm gonna keep my mouth shut. Bombastic side eye, but the book is really good. Read it. Also, I don't know if I mentioned, but I gave Sea of Monsters a 3.75. Next book, Flawless by Elsie Silver. Now, this book is a part of a series. I don't remember the name of the series, but it's the first book in the series. I kept seeing these books all over Book Talk, and I was just like, fuck it. Let's go. Let's go with something new, because I've just been doing rereads. Just to start off, let's just make it clear off the jump. I gave it 2 stars, okay? If you don't know what this book is about, it's about this guy who's a bull rider, and he gets into a scandal in the media. And so his publicist has his daughter, who works for him, basically work as this guy's babysitter. Like, she has to make sure that he doesn't get into any more scandal. She's there to make sure that he stays out of trouble. And in turn, like, he has her live at his house to make sure that like he's on his best behavior. And while she's there, she gets to know more about him and his family, who also lives with him. It's kind of a small town romance, kind of Grumpy Sunshine, but not really. I wouldn't call it. Some people label this book as Grumpy Sunshine. I don't think that's the case at all. Yeah, I did not like this book. I gave it 2 stars. The writing and the dialogue, kind of cringy, wasn't feeling it, wasn't on the same wavelength as it. Very hard to get through. The enemies to lovers wasn't hitting like it's supposed to. You already knew that they were attracted to each other off jump. Like, as soon as they see each other, there's instant physical attraction. It's one of those books where you know that they're gonna like sleep together like within at least the first 200 pages. So I'm just like, wasn't hitting. It really wasn't. But something about this in particular just made me really more upset, because the reason why they were enemies made no sense. It was very one-sided. The enemies to lovers trope was kind of thrown into books for no reason, and I feel like this is one of those books that it was just like unnecessarily thrown in. There was no reason for them to hate each other, or for one character to hate the other in particular. It was just stupid. The build-up was barely worth it. I didn't really have a good time reading this. I kind of had to push through. I think by the end I was skimming it. Yeah, just not a fan of it, and I won't be continuing the series because I don't care about the other characters enough to do it. Okay, on to the next book. Next book I'm going to talk about is actually a comic. I read the first volume of Miss Marvel, No Normal. I mentioned in my last video that I really want to get back into reading comics, because when I was younger I read a lot of comics and then I stopped for some reason. I'm rereading comics right now and I'm having the time of my life. I forgot how much I really did enjoy them. I read the Miss Marvel comic simply because I loved the show, and I've been meaning to get to this for literally over a year. Since the show came out, I was like, this girl is hilarious. Her story is so unique and I would love to read more. So that's what I did. If you guys don't know what Miss Marvel is or what it's about, it's a Marvel comic about a teenage girl who gets powers, and she's learning how to balance out being a superhero, a teenager, and Muslim. And she's struggling a bit. Like, in this first comic she was really struggling, but she slowly starts to get the hang of it, and she discovers more about herself along the way. I gave this a 4-star. I really liked it. I had a feeling I would because of how much I loved the show, but I really liked this comic. I didn't think that the show would stay as true to the comic as it actually did. Like, the only thing that changed was her powers, which I know sounds like a big change, but in like the grand scheme of things, I feel like they did a pretty good job. Now that I've actually read the source material, when I was reading the comics, I realized that they were literally lines from the show. Putting the lines from the comics in the script word for word, bar for bar. While I was reading it, I literally saw the show play in my head. It was very accurate. Again, the only thing that changed was her powers. But it's interesting to read how she originally got her powers. I'm not really like a comic book nerd like that, okay? Like, I don't really know the depths, ins and outs of like Marvel, DC shit. I don't know anything about that. But it's interesting to find out that she's kind of sort of an inhuman. Like, that's interesting to me. Reading her origin stories and her trying to become a superhero and building a name for herself and not based off of other superheroes that she loves and is inspired by, it was nice. She had to figure out what makes her stand out. Like, yeah, she loves all these other superheroes like Captain Marvel, Iron Man, like all of these big superheroes, but what makes her Miss Marvel? Like, why is she so cool? And yeah, it's very like cute coming of age comic. I had a lot of fun with this and very quick read. I think I got through it in like a few hours. Okay, so the next thing I read is actually a reread, because who's surprised? Not me. I read The Gilded Ones by Namina Forna. If you guys don't know what this is, it's about a girl named Decca who lives in a society where women are looked at as less than, and they have to get like through a trial where they have their blood tested, and if they have red blood then they can marry off when they're like 16 or 17 years old and, you know, basically be servants to their husbands. If they have gold blood, then they are executed because society looks down on gold-blooded women. No surprise, Decca has gold blood. So she gets taken, whisked away to the kingdom of her land, where she is recruited to become a soldier for the king, emperor, whatever. And she learns her worth as a woman. She learns how strong she is, and she learns different secrets about her past and her lineage, and it's really, really good. I remember loving this a lot, and I still do love it. Decca is still one of my favorite characters to this day. Can't stress enough how much I think this book is amazing. I love this book. Just the empowerment for women in it, and the growth and the characters, not just Decca, but like all of the characters, all of the women that have grown up in the society who are at first getting recruited in this kingdom, because I forgot to say this, but when you get recruited in this kingdom, like you serve the king for like 20 years as a soldier, and then you're allowed to go back into normal society. So when the girls first get into this like army, they do it because they just really want to go back and serve the men in their lives, because that's all they've known, that's all they have ever grown up with, that's what their religious beliefs are. As they continue to train, they realize how they really don't need a man, how they're really strong and independent. The romance in it, not gonna lie, it was kind of like a secondary aspect to the whole thing, which I really enjoyed. Don't get me wrong, I love like my romantasy books, but this isn't really that like at all. The romance part is kind of like the cute part of the book, if I'm being honest. Like, you forget how these kids are teens sometimes because of like all the gruesome stuff that happens in this book, but the love and the romance part of it kind of gave me like the YA aspect of the book. It was very cute, soft-hearted. However, the gruesome parts of the book, I don't remember it being as gruesome as it was. Okay, I remember a lot of deaths and stuff, but oh my god, so gruesome. Every single death that was described, terrible. Because again, I forgot to mention this, but as a gold-blooded woman, you can't really die, or like you can, but it has to be a specific type of death. And if no one knows your death, then they're just killing you, and you're gonna like get made all over, and like your body just like remorphs itself. And it's very graphic descriptions of that, so if that's triggering to you, maybe don't read it. Plot twist still gets me after all these years. The plot twist still like got me a little bit, because it's not what you think it is. After everything I told you, it's not what you think it is. It's really not. The secrets that get exposed in this book about the society and this land gagged me. First time I read it and the second time, because I kind of forgot. I reread this so I can start the sequel, because the sequel came out last year and I've had it since last year and I just haven't read it. So yeah, the plot twist really made me excited to get started on the sequel, which I still haven't done, but I trust I'm gonna get to it soon. Go read it if you haven't already. The Gilded Ones by Namina Forna. Next book I have is one from an author that I love, Kennedy Ryan. This is a short. Actually, like, it's like a short that she made for Juneteenth. I think she made it last year, but I recently discovered it, so I read it on Juneteenth, I think. It's called Free to Love. It's about these two people that are in a relationship that are trying to plan their wedding, and they run into complications when the guy's mom gets involved. A really good short story about how to communicate with your partner and be open with them, and just about Black love and romance, and it's just really good, really cute. I think this has something to do with her other series about basketball players. I don't remember the name of that series. I want to read it, but I don't remember the name, because one of the characters was mentioned to be like a physical therapist for a basketball team. So something makes me think that this book is in another universe that I'm just not a part of yet. But regardless, I had a great time. Gave it 5 stars. Like I said, it's only 50 pages, but still hit right here. And the spice, excellent. I love the brief mentions of toxic masculinity and how sex can be used as a manipulative tactic in relationships, because I feel like a lot of romance books don't touch on that, and yet I see that used in a lot of romance books, especially mainstream romance books. It's nice that topic is, you know, getting discussed in a short story like this, especially because it was briefly mentioned, but when it was mentioned, I was like, oh wow, I got punched in the face with that one. Wasn't expecting that. And of course the Juneteenth aspect of it, because it got released on Juneteenth, and there's some like aspects of Juneteenth in the book that I really liked. Yeah, it all just tied together very perfectly into a short, quick little romantic bow. This just made me even more excited, because like I said, I jumped into this not knowing it's a part of a different universe. I think it's with the universe with the books like Long Shot and all those. Haven't read them, but bet that I will. Okay, and the last book that I read in June, Delilah Green Does Not Care by Ashley Herring Blake. I gave this book 4 stars. I love this book so much. I knew I would. I don't know why I put it off this long. So good. If you guys don't know what Delilah Green is about, it's about this girl, Delilah. She is kind of estranged from her family that consists of her stepsister and stepmother. She doesn't really talk to them. She freelances as a photographer in New York, and she's living her best life until her stepsister calls her up and is like, hey, I need you to take photos for my wedding. Like, I need you as our photographer. And she's like, okay, whatever. She does it for the money. So she goes back to this small town, I think it's called Bright Falls or whatever. She's doing her job. She runs into not only her stepsister, but also her little friend group. Her friend group consists of her one love interest, Claire. Delilah and Claire kind of hit it off, and they start to form a sort of relationship along the way, but it gets complicated because, again, Delilah has a little bit of issues from her childhood. I'm already on the sequel, so you can tell, like, if I am starting a sequel like this quick, you can tell that I'm really like enjoying it. I gave it 4 stars. I really liked this book. Besides the romance aspect of it, because again, I love Delilah and Claire's relationship. I think that they're so cute, so good together. I really liked how much depth was given to each character. Like, it wasn't just the main characters, it was also the side characters, and I know it's because they each get their own books. I'm currently on Astrid's book. Astrid is Delilah's stepsister, and in this book she's kind of introduced as like the mean girl, like the wicked stepsister or whatever, but there's depth to her, just like how there's a little bit of depth to Claire and Iris. Like, I really like how the author's not afraid to flesh out each of the characters in these books. They just don't seem like two-dimensional mean girls. Refreshing, really. Not gonna lie, the relationship development with Claire and Delilah was kind of fast, but it wasn't like I wasn't eating it up. Like, I was gobbling it up. I liked seeing the relationship that Claire had with her daughter and her baby daddy. That was interesting to me. Like, I usually don't like kids in books, but with this one, I don't know, it just spoke to me. I like it when the kid is like at a tolerable age of like 12. It makes more sense for me to read other than like actual toddlers. Yeah, I'm reading Astrid's book. I really love Astrid right now. Not gonna give too much away because I literally just started today, but yeah, she's giving Nesta. If you guys don't know, Nesta's from Akatar. She's one of the only like good things about that book, in my opinion. To me, that's a really unpopular opinion, but to me, she's one of the only reasons why I love that book. She's giving misunderstood mean girl, and I love Astrid. I loved her a lot in the first book, and I think I'm gonna love her even more in the second book. So yeah, can't wait to talk about that in my next wrap up. But yeah, Delilah Green Doesn't Care. I gave it a 4-star. Yeah, that's the last book for this video. If you guys enjoyed this, thank you. If you guys have any other books that you'd like to recommend to me, don't be afraid to do it in the comments. You can also do it on Twitter because I mostly interact on Twitter, or you could do it on my Instagram because I also interact on Instagram a lot. So yeah, I think that's it. I will see you guys in my next video. Bye everyone.